Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. In today's new video, it's going to be a brand new political discussion-based video on the new Georgia voting bill that was signed by Brian Kemp very recently, actually. And I will actually be sharing where I overall stand on this Georgia voting bill. But before I begin, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate in the comment section, and people are probably going to dislike this video to hell, like what happened with one of my videos where I talked about how ballot harvesting is a threat to American democracy. But overall, people in the comment section, even if you disagree with my opinion, please share it down below and be very respectful at it, because everyone has a right to actually voice their disagreements, voice their agreements with something, and let's overall show that we're better than the two-party system, that we're better than the Republicans, that we're better than the Democrats, because we are. The parties and independent candidates, they are better than the Republican and Democrats, and they will be. They'll be far better than them. But overall, in my opinion, just please be respectful in the comment section. And if you want to dislike, I respect that. If you in disagreement, I understand that. But I have to get this opinion out there because, in my opinion, the critics of this bill is taking their criticism weight out of proportions, because in my opinion, this bill is not racist. In my opinion, this bill is not voter suppression or as President Joe Biden said it, Jim Crow 2.0. It's not voter suppression. It is not. It doesn't discriminate against black voters. It does not suppress minority or colored people. And I will be going into some of my reasoning. And as you're seeing right now, this is actually the bill. This is SB 202, and the whole purpose of this bill is to improve election security, election integrity. This is to help restore voter confidence, that they had voter confidence. It's supposed to somewhat fix a lot of the major problems with the 2020 election. And now since I got that out of the way, let's begin with this video, shall we? And overall, as you may know, as I once said, I'm going to repeat myself again, I actually support this bill. I have little disagreement with this bill. I don't think this bill is racist. I think this is a great step and a good step for every state to follow, an example for all states to follow, in my opinion, because this ensures, this actually, how do I put this? This actually restores the losing side's confidence that they have. It addresses their problem. It addresses President Trump, and it addresses his supporters and his campaign's problems that they had with the 2020 election. First of all, in my opinion, it's actually a good thing that is now required by Georgia law. It's required for all voters, regardless of who you are in Georgia, to show photo ID, to show a driver's license if you want to vote or if you want to request an absentee ballot. That, in my opinion, Democrats say voter ID laws suppresses voters, it suppresses people of color or poor communities. Well, actually, no, as Tim Scott said, as Senator Tim Scott said in South Carolina, voter ID laws, North Carolina has voter ID laws. And guess what? And black turnout actually jumped up by a big margin. There was a record-breaking black turnout in North Carolina. And guess what? That state has no voter ID laws. And as well, requiring all voters to show ID before they vote, or if they want to request an absentee ballot, it's common sense. That's the most common sense principle. Because guess what? We have to show ID in everything in our lives. We have to have an ID to drive. We have to have an ID to travel. We have to have an ID to purchase alcoholic beverages. We have an ID to actually purchase tobacco. We have to have an ID to do a lot of things in our society, because it's important, because it cracks down on fraudulent. It cracks down on fraud, and part of that, in my opinion, and that's one of the reasons, one of the main reasons why I support SB 202, Georgia's voting bill, and it's a good step to actually reforming our elections. And and this is one of the beauties with American democracy, with our constitutional system, is that the states are the experiment of democracy. They are the ones experimenting. They can conduct experiment laboratories in their own states on how they can reform their elections. The federal government, on the other hand, can't really tell the states what to do, because in our federal union, states are in charge. They can decide what voting system, what electoral system they want to pursue, to make it fair for all people. Because you know what? All states are different. What works for one state doesn't work for the other. Like for instance, Oregon has mail-in voting. It's one of the states that doesn't allow vote in person. It only allows mail-in voting. And back to my reasoning why I support this bill. Like another reason why is that let me see if I can find it. It actually establishes ranked choice voting, or in other words, instant runoff voting for military and overseas voters. And I kind of wish that it was for all voters in Georgia, ranked choice voting, allowing candidates, instead of just voting for one candidate, you get to rank the candidates in order of preference. You rank your favorite candidate number 1, your second favorite is number 2, your third favorite is number 3, your fourth favorite is number 4, your fifth favorite is number 5, and your least favorite choice will be ranked at the bottom of your ranking. This is actually, ranked choice voting will go a long way to reform our elections in all states. It should be a national mandate everywhere, because it's going to allow voters to vote for the candidate that they feel like is best to run this public office that this candidate is running for, without fearing in doing so they might split the vote and end up electing the candidate that they like the least. And this is a good step. I kind of wish Georgia expands it to all voters, where they can rank everywhere, where they can rank all the candidates in order of preference, not just providing it only for military and overseas voters. But this is going a long way to actually reforming our election. This is going to be huge. It's going to help give third-party independent candidates, help them give them more of a say, and they can help them help them carry their policies more often, and increase their publicity and notoriety. And as well with ranked choice voting and instant runoff voting, what Georgia is doing, establishing it for military and overseas voters. This is going to solve this is going to actually make elections cost effective, much more cheaper, because scheduling a runoff election on another month, it's just going to that's more money out of tax. That's spending more taxpayer money. It's actually going to, with ranked choice voting, it's going to save taxpayer money, because it's just an instant runoff. Because if no candidate has a majority, only one candidate has the most votes but not a majority, then the candidate with the least amount of support will be eliminated from the race, and those voters that selected that candidate as number 1 will have their next choices counted. And that process will keep continuing until you have one candidate that has a majority, which is either 50% or more of the total votes in the state's popular vote. This is going to go a long way to actually fixing American democracy, and that's one of that was one of my electoral reforms. It was actually part of my second episode of my Fixing American Democracy series. It was all about installing ranked choice voting, and this is going to go a long way, in my opinion, to reforming our elections in all states. And I applaud Georgia for establishing ranked choice voting for military and overseas voters. And you know what? I understand, like, I'm kind of upset that it's for military and overseas voters, but I hope in the future that they expand it to all voters, and it finally gets rid of just scheduled runoff elections and just allow instant runoff voting instead of just scheduling the runoff election, because it's going to be much more cost effective, and they just allow ranked choice voting to be involved in all elections for decades to come. As well, like this is a complaint that the Democrats have with this voting bill, and I don't know why. Georgia's law makes it a crime to give food and water to people waiting to vote. In my opinion, Democrats, like even Joe Biden and other critics, are taking this into proportions. They're just taking it. It's just unacceptable, in my opinion. This doesn't mean election officials and people that are nonpartisan, who are not beholden to any political party, who don't receive any campaign funds. They just do it because they want to protect everyone's right to vote. They will be like those nonpartisan poll workers. They will be allowed to still give out food and water. It's just it only limits people, and like as the bill states, let me see if I can find it in this article. There it is. Let me see. Let me highlight it first. There we go. The law SB 202 states that no person shall solicit votes in any manner or by any means or method, nor shall any person distribute or display any campaign material, nor shall any person give, offer to give, or participate in any giving of any money or gifts, including but not limited to food or and drink to an elector on any day in which the ballots are being cast. This is actually a good thing, in my opinion. This is going to help prevent solicitation and influencing voters. And this is, if I remember correctly, back in the 2020 election, Kamala Harris, and I think it was one of the videos by Liberal Hive Mind, showed Kamala Harris actually holding a campaign rally at a campaign event at a polling station and trying to influence voters to vote for Biden-Harris. And that should be made illegal. No one, if they're part of a campaign, if they're a political operative from a party that has contributed to that party, they should not be allowed to actually vote. They should not be allowed to influence voters at a polling station. Polling stations are nonpartisan. And as well, like this goes back to my point with handing out snacks and water, like for party operatives. Guess what they're going to do if they do that? Like on a hot day, let's say on a hot day, they're gonna try to be very friendly. They're gonna be trying to be very, very nice and try to talk to them a lot more. And guess what? And they're gonna ask them, do you want a food? Do you want a water bottle? Or do you want a snack? And guess what? The voters, that might influence the voters to vote for them. That might have them second guess, or how do I actually put this? That might actually have them to to sway their votes and change their mind who they're actually voting for and vote for the candidate that gave them a water bottle or gave them a food. It's going to crack down on this whole art. It's going to crack down on this law. Is actually going to crack down and make it and keep the polling stations nonpartisan as possible, free from partisan activities, in my opinion, because that's a good thing. We should keep the polling station where people go to vote or where people drop off their ballots. That should be legal. That should be a nonpartisan area for people. That's where people vote and vote for candidates and elect that they feel is best to hold that office where that candidate is running for. And I don't understand why Democrats are complaining about this bill. Why they think it's Jim Crow. This is actually going to help protect election integrity. Like as well, I know I'm going to go off topic here. But I have to say this. Like HR 1, like the For the People's Act, like the one thing I can disagree with is that they wanted to completely remove voter ID laws. They want to remove ballot harvesting. They want to not remove ballot harvesting. I'm sorry about that. They want to make ballot harvesting legal nationwide. That's a bad thing, in my opinion. Guess what that's going to increase. Guess what that's going to lead to? That's going to allow third parties. When I mean third parties, I'm not meaning third libertarians or Greens. I'm meaning political operatives, like Republican operatives, Democratic operatives, to actually go to someone's home and try to actually pick up their ballot for them without no questions asked. And how is that providing election security? That's not making our elections more secured. And in my opinion, ballot harvesting should be completely banned overall in this country. That is not, in my opinion, no. If we want mail-in ballots, I can agree with Democrats. They want to make voting simple, but we also have to make it harder to cheat. And this is something what this Georgia SB 202 bill will do. It will still make voting still easy, but it's also going to make it complex to the point where it's harder to cheat and hard to rig an election. And it's why when it comes to establishing ranked choice voting for overseas citizens and military voters, if it is voter ID laws as well, and even if it is making it illegal for political operatives, people who work on campaigns that receive campaign funds, it's going to make it illegal for them to give out water and food to electors, because it will help prevent it'll help prevent them influencing those voters to have them change their minds right away. And people will do that. People will sway their votes, because when I don't know who I'm voting for, like for me, for instance, when I don't know who I'm actually voting for, and I'm stuck who I'm voting for, and I'm always because I can actually, I'm very malleable. I can actually switch my vote. And if someone's actually nice to me and that offers me a water bottle or a snack when I'm standing in line at a polling station, guess what? They're so nice. That's going to make me want to vote for them, because you know what? One thing I've learned in the private sector is like people who offer a very, very friendly service, that's going to come back to them in a good way. You're going to gather more support for people, and that's what's going to happen, and that's what this bill and that's what the Republicans are preventing. They're preventing people from actually going to going to a nonpartisan area, a polling station, for instance, or an election office, or a polling station, to actually sway voters, to actually have voters make a last minute decision and change their votes, change their votes and change who they're actually voting for when they're handed a ballot. And it's something like why I support this. Nonpartisan people are still allowed to give out food and water. It just can't be someone who engages in partisan activities when people are standing in line. And why I support this bill, and why I support the Georgia voting bill. It's going to actually crack down on election integrity. And as well, like another thing, what this bill actually adds, if I can find it somewhere, and I know it's somewhere. It's something the state government approved of. It actually establishes a chairperson that shall be elected by the General Assembly, like in the following manner. And what this chairperson will do is actually, he will be actually in charge. He will be in charge of actually properly executing the commission of office when it comes to certifying the election. This guy is going to be completely nonpartisan. He can't participate in any political party or organization. He cannot participate in any campaign for any candidate that's running for public office. He cannot even make contributions to any candidate. He has to remain as nonpartisan. He can't be political at all. It has to be a good thing, in my opinion. If we have more and more election workers and poll workers that are nonpartisan, that cannot engage in any partisan activities in any election, that's gonna ensure the integrity. That's gonna ensure the trust and confidence that people have, if you're the winning side, if you're the losing side. It'll make everything, people will feel like everyone will have a voice. People will feel like the election results were completely legitimate. And based on my overall opinion, when it came to the 2020 election, even though Trump was kind of took the whole widespread voter fraud thing into proportions, and I believe that there could have been some type of fraud in the 2020 election in Pennsylvania, where they're known for ballot stuffing. I don't think the fraud was completely widespread as Trump was making out. I think there could have been a little bit of fraud, a little bit of cheating, but I don't think it was that widespread as Trump made it out to be. And in my opinion, this Georgia voting bill, in my opinion, is what's going to actually reform. Is going to be a good step. It's going to be one of the first good steps to actually reforming our elections to make them free and fair and more democratic. And I understand Democrats. I get you Democratic voters. I get you guys. You guys want to make voting easy for all people, but guess what? You have to also make voting in our electoral system complex. You got to make it complicated. If I remember, based on my earlier research, and Germany has a confusing and complex voting process. It has a confusing and complex electoral process in this country, in their country, for instance. But that complexity resulted in a stable government for more than 60 years. And that's a good thing. If Germany can have a complex voting process, if we can make it complex, it will make it harder for people to cheat, but we can still have our elections still be easy. Voting should be made easy, but it should also be complex in a way where it's harder to cheat and harder to rig elections. In my opinion, if we make it complex, voter turnout can still be high. And overall, you guys, my overall opinion with this bill, I think this is a good step. Even though there was, I think this is a good step to actually reforming our elections overall all across this country. When it comes to ranked choice voting, preventing and making it illegal for political operatives like a Republican operative, a Democratic operative, or any other person who engages in partisan activity, making it illegal for them to actually hand out bottles of water and or snacks to voters at a polling station. It only makes it's only legal for election officials and even the chairperson to actually hand out food and water because they're nonpartisan, and that's how it should be. Election workers and poll workers, they should be only allowed to do that at a polling station because they're nonpartisan, and that should be a nonpartisan area. That's free from any partisan activities, free from any campaign rallies. But let me hear where you guys stand on this overall issue. Do you guys completely disagree with me on SB 202? But overall, my overall opinion is I support this bill full-heartedly. I think this is a good step to ensuring the integrity of our elections. I understand the critics. I understand what Democrats have and their problems with this voting bill, but we need some complexity. We need voter identification laws. We need to make election workers and election offices nonpartisan. We need to make ranked choice voting a nationwide mandate in all 50 states. But this is a good step, and I'm glad. One thing I'm glad Georgia is taking the steps to establishing ranked choice voting in their state, even if it's just for overseas citizens and military people. This is just going to go a long way to bring real electoral reform that this country really needs in this country, to really make sure that every side feels like the election results will always be legitimate for decades to come, whether it is from the right, whether it is from the left, whether it is from being a centrist, whether it is being from other parties, from libertarians, to make it fair for everyone, make it fair for all parties. That will not just preserve, it will make it fair for Republicans, Democrats, Greens, Libertarians, and so on. It's gonna be to push for real electoral reform. In my opinion, SB 202 is actually a really good step to reforming our elections, and it really also addresses the losing sides' frustrations and their issues that they had with the 2020 election. And we need to do that because that's what's going to help. And like what I said in one of my discussion videos about the Capitol riot, like we need electoral reform. We need electoral reform package to really bring people together, to making sure the losing side in the 2020 election, making sure the majority, the people that won the 2020 election, making sure everyone feels like our elections can be legitimate. It can be democratic and free and fair for all Americans. So let me hear where you guys stand on this issue. Do you completely disagree with me? Do you think SB 202 is pure voter suppression, or do you agree with me on my ideas? Do you agree with my opinions? Don't forget to like or subscribe. And if you wanted to dislike this video, go right ahead to show your disagreements. I'm okay with it because we can all be agents of change. Share where you stand on this issue, and just please make it civil, because let's show to the two major parties, to the duopoly, that we're better than them, that we will not engage in partisan act. We will not bicker, we will not play politics. We will do everything we can to make people's lives better for all Americans. So until next time, guys, this is the Young Centrist, and I am out.